Hello and welcome to this edition of Community Voices Uganda on Civic Space TV. I am Phillip Muliisa. I warmly welcome you all to this particular conversation, and today I'm hosting an all-journalist panel. Why? Because we're discussing press freedom, and we want to assess the status of press freedom in the country, but also painting a picture of how the journalists are being treated with the background of the Kawempe North by-election and what transpired out there. We know most of our journalists, if not whoever was in the field on that day, was either assaulted or intimidated or received threats. Many have been hospitalized, equipment damaged, data lost. A lot of things happened in that by-election, and we want to make an assessment in the next 1 hour of what that is like, but also what it means for the journalism sector in the country, and forge ways forward of how this relationship and situation can be improved in the midterm and in the long term to have a progressive and sustainable society. I am Phillip Muliisa, and I'm proud on this episode to host, can I say, veteran journalist, Mr. Aron Amanya. Aron, good morning. You're welcome to the conversation.
Good morning to Philip. Good morning to Philip. How are you? Glad to be part. I'm not a veteran journalist. I'm just like any other ordinary citizen, actually, who doesn't even prefer titles. Because truth be told, the time we did journalism, there wasn't anything like social. If there was social media, I think would be real celebrities. But then we decided to keep low key, and I think that has made us to be who we are. But we are still journalists. Once a journalist, you'll always be a journalist. We never retire. And glad to be part of this conversation. I'm happy that we are going to share ideas that will change narratives on what happened in as far as press freedom is concerned, and the way forward, how best we can be in position maybe to prepare for the way for what is coming, what's likely to happen in the coming days and the coming years. Thank you, and thank you so much. I'll be glad to also hear from others. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aron, and we're very happy and honored to have you here. I also have David Ijjo online here on my panel. I know, David, you're in the field, but if you can unmute and talk to us briefly. Greetings, you're welcome to the conversation. Yes, thank you so much, David. David is a journalist, a reporter with the Nation Media Group, particularly with NTV Uganda, and we're happy to have you for the conversation. And I expect to be joined later by Mr. Robert Sempala, the ED of Human Rights Network for Journalists. I'm also expecting Mr. Suleiman Ssebugwawo, attached to BBS and CBS, and any other individuals that could be in the pipeline to make a contribution to the conversation. But starting the conversation, I want to start with you, Aron. You talk about the times you participated and contributed to journalism very actively back in the days, but you've lived to see even the modern times and how things are shaping up and what is happening on ground. In the most brief and short kind of description, how would you comment about the status of press freedom in the country today, creating a comparison with how it was in the times when you were active? Yes, Aron.
Right. Thank you so much, Philip. Hope I'm loud and clear.
Yes, you are.
Okay. All right. To first maybe talk about press freedom. We are looking at press freedom as a fundamental principle of communication that allows the free expression. You're free to say what you want to say. You're free to cover or carry out your work without any form of restriction, be it in print, if you're writing an article, be it in any like magazine stuff, but no one, you're writing something by putting into consideration the principles, being objective, being fair, and accurate. So that's all I can say about press freedom. Okay, it's a lot, of course. We're also looking at the right of journalists and media organizations to be in position to give out information. without any form of fear or retaliation. So press freedom is a fundamental pillar of democracy, which ensures that there is transparency, accountability, and free exchange of ideas. And some of the aspects that one should consider when it comes to press freedom is that there is freedom from censorship, whereby a journalist can report on events without any government interference. That's the first thing. So, and then the second one is protection of journalists or the media practitioners, whereby they should not face threats, violence, or at any one time when they are covering a story, think about something like imprisonment for the work that they have done. And then the other one is made to have access to information, whereby the media practitioners should have the right to gather and disseminate public interest information within the context of how and when it's happening, for people to be informed. So, of course, compared to our days when we used to, I started journalism, I think, by as early as 2010. I was already practicing journalism. And I think some of us what helped us is that we used to be like undercover journalists. Of course, someone would never take you to be serious, but then, because back then social media wasn't. Are these things new? They are not new. It's just that for today, for now, like internet has become the main tool, and there is a lot of citizen journalism. So it's the reason as to why we are experiencing such. We are in position to, but of course, some of these things used to happen. I remember during the 2011 walk to work. Oh God, it was another issue. There are scenarios which I cannot maybe talk about them with someone who was there. Yeah, because it was another kind of life, like it was another kind of experience. The Kizza message of those days compared to the Kizza message, because by then the guy had like, I think he still had the energy, he had the zeal. Ugandans were united for a cause, and I don't think, I'll be honest enough, sorry to, of course I know this is going to be recorded, but truth be told, yes, we have opposition leaders, but I don't think Uganda will ever have an opposition leader that will ever reach the level of Kizza Besigye. Kizza Besigye would really see. Indeed, sometimes would use Omusajja Luna agenda. Indeed, Omusajja, you would really see that the man had support from the masses. Of course, so press freedom by those days, it's just, these things are not new, by the way. They are not new here in Uganda. It's just that now everyone is aware. Everyone knows their rights. Not that people those days didn't know their rights. They knew everything, but things have totally changed. And then on top of that, by then, the key players were not many, like the way we are seeing today. Civil society organizations, they used to, of course, not that I can't bring that they never used to do their work, but I'll be like, there wasn't like a lot degree of awareness that is there today. Today, something is happening, you're going to brutally mishandle a journalist or any media practitioner. There will be one person who is watching. There will be one person who is secretly recording. Those days, it was another issue. They take your cameras, they take everything, whatever you have, the notebooks. I don't know how many.
So, Aaron, what you tell us is the major difference in the practice today and then is the fact that today now people have a lot of access to recording devices, that everything is documented, but also the fact that everyone now is willing to get involved, other than then when it was only for the professionals to be active in this particular sphere.
By then, because I don't know how many days, almost every day, how many diaries, how many recorders I lost that time. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that record of that time and how journalism actually used to play out, but also creating a comparison of how things happening today and how we are moving forward. I don't know, David, I know you're in the field, but I hope you can be able to talk to us in the moment. Take me to the field of journalism. You hear the comparison Aaron is making. He practiced in a time when mobile phones and other recording devices were quite few and not very many people had access, but also talking about the fact that the aggressiveness and the power of politicians was so high at the time. When you look at the field today with the background of what Aaron says, how does it look for you? And maybe do you see it improving for the better, or is it actually going for the worst? Yes, David, if you can talk to us in the moment.
Thank you, Muliisa. I want to start by apologizing in case my sound doesn't come out smooth as it's supposed to be. I'm currently in the field where, first of all, to update you guys, journalists were beaten last week in Kawempe. I mean, we're covering the Kawempe by elections today. Petitioning to the just here in waiting a few minutes from now, maybe we'll be able to do that. But back to the subject question, I very much agree with Aaron. Journalism in the past was quite difficult, and it's been made easy today where we have growth in digital presence and also what someone in quotes would want to call citizen journalism. Thriving in that, even if you touch the real professionals or you touch the real foot soldiers of this profession who do the stories out there, you will have at least one or two video clips circulating or coming from the citizenry that will be able to tell the stories of others even without those being touched. But that does not really rub away the fact that regardless whether there are trends in media or whatsoever, journalists must be beaten. No, it does not rub away the fact, and we still need to keep condemning that. Of course, in the past, like Aaron said, the political heat of the past was very different from what it is right now today. Perhaps the strength of Kizza Besigye at that time is not the strength of, may not be equated to the current political strength in terms of the opposition voters. But still, what we have to know is that politics is one of the biggest drivers of Uganda as a country. And even if there are shifts in terms of political strength, individuals, at the end of the day, it remains the biggest driver. And it is what drives us as a country. And certain events keep on rotating around themselves. I mean, if in the past we had the likes of Dr. Kizza Besigye, who shook up the politics and attracted a lot of masses and attracted media. Even today, we have those who are there. They are also attracting them. But then, in terms of events that transpire, you actually get to see that similar or the same events keep happening. Perhaps in a kind of a fracas, you have journalists injured in the process. In the past, the past times, because of Aaron did their journalism, I'm sure those cases were recorded. 2021, those cases were recorded. Now we are headed into 2026. Just a nearby election, we still have cases of that nature coming up. The big question is, when are we going to end this conversation? Okay, the conversation may not end, but when are we going to minimize this kind of conversation moving forward? We can't have the same. We just can't normalize the same kind of trend happening in every political season. You have it happen in 2026. No, 2016 rather. You have it happen in 2011. Every time we have a political season, the same events happen. Same events happen. The biggest question is, how do we put this to an end? How do we as journalists ensure that we put this to an end? How do stakeholders ensure that this is put to an end? How do media owners, our bosses, ensure that this is put to an end? Because we are headed into a dilemma where our journalism is becoming a laughing stock when it's not supposed to be. We pride in calling ourselves the fourth estate, which we are. But do the institutions that govern power respect the fact that we are the president? Is my question.
Thank you.
I appeared in after we were beaten, I appeared in so many talk shows and TV stations trying to account for my body, and I can ask you this question. Previously, journalists have been circumstances of rather victims of circumstance, whereby they are injured as victims. Maybe the targets are opposition political opponents rather, and then in the fracas, a journalist is injured. It is so different from what happened recently in Kawempe. This time round, who were the targets? As the person who was on the ground, who witnessed everything, who were targets, deliberately targets. For me, it gives me worry. If previously journalists were injured as victims of circumstances, and this particular time round, you have deliberately targeted them, it gives me worry as a professional, as a young man in this industry, geared up to cover the 2026 elections. I just don't know. We need to have a conversation, a very honest conversation, to say that the security and protection of journalists is guaranteed. Because if other democracies can do it, why not us? I'm calling other democracies because this government has always defended itself as a democracy. While I may have my views, I want to believe they've defended themselves as a democracy, and I want to go with what the government says that we are a democracy. So if other democracies have done it, benchmark it from other countries, look at Kenya, look at Tanzania. At least there is a sense of respect for media rights. Why not us?
Thank you, David, for that. And you raise a very important question. If others can do it, then why is it that we're failing to do it? But also, you mentioned two keywords, and I want to engage Aaron on these particular ones. And he also referred to them. He says journalists, and maybe for clarity, David Ijjo was on ground in Kawempe, and he was part of the NTV team or the Wider Nation Media Group team that was attacked. Some of his colleagues were injured. He survived the arrests and detentions and so on, but he was on that team, and many of his colleagues were injured, abducted, and so on, and we've seen them hospitalized for a couple of days and so on. So Aaron, look, we keep using the words targeted. Why is it in the interest of security agencies, the state, police, and so on to have a bad relationship with the media? What is the motivation? What is the cause for this? Is it in the best interest of the government to have a media that is not in good terms with this other arm of the state, like we said, the fourth estate, the other three? Is it good that we have a fourth estate that is not in good terms with the other three? Yes, Aaron.
Okay, thank you so much. I believe the fourth estate, in one way or the other, there should be a need for dialogue between the fourth estate and the army or the security personnel. Reason being, like, to me, when I saw the National Association of Broadcasters, the Uganda Sports Press Association, Uganda Journalists Association, saying that, and these other organizations saying, the media bodies, the Human Rights Journalists for Network, saying that we are going to boycott the functions,
state functions and events.
Yes. I think that's one way of showing their kind of discontentment. Like they are not contented with what they are doing. Of course, seeing, because if you see a colleague being brutally treated, tomorrow it's going to be you. So what do you do? Let's have a dialogue. Talk about it. We negotiate. What are the parameters? Yeah. Maybe in one way or the other, if the army feels that there is a section that the media shouldn't cover, then they should be in position to say, this one, you're going beyond this. Or You see, another thing, I think there is always that belief that whenever people see media, they also want to actively involve themselves. Yeah. So they are made to do what they are not even made to do. So in one way or the other, can we look at technology being also adopted? Because now where we are reaching, because I'll be honest enough, and I remember from my mentor, the late Barry Francis, would always tell us, no story is worth your life. Yeah. Can we look at media? I'll give you a case in point. I think I used to, one of my colleagues, he was a journalist from Malaysia, came in to cover the 2011 elections. And so he told me some of the ways, if you're going for a riot, I remember there is a time we had the 2010, I think there was was it 2010, 11 or 11? No, it was 11 or 12. Casita riot. I think that was like he would tell you, get an angle whereby you can be free from danger. At least maybe we need to train also. I think there is also need for media practitioners to also be equipped with skills on how best they can survive. How best, which angle, where do I, if I want to cover a certain scene, where do I, because I don't need to get directly in touch. Now that I know I'm a target, a soft target.
You see, Aaron,
yes.
Aaron, what we're talking about is a journalist trying to cover an altercation between a police officer and citizens of a particular area. And we are talking about people who are holding guns. These are people who have guns, they have tear gas, they have all sort of ammunition. Does that mean we take journalists to probably Kabamba or any other military training institution so that they also have military skills to get into such protection and skills to counter this, especially you see now in an era where you have the JAT and how they are active on ground? What kind of training can we give the journalists?
No, to me, I think the only training is on how best they can be. It's not even training, it's how best they can be friends. Media now, this is the time where these association leaders should advocate for for fairness, like at the position to cultivate a relationship between the security and the media practitioners. Yeah, because media needs, like the security personnel need media by all means. Yeah, because they can never, regardless of what happens. Of course, security also does good work, which the public needs to be informed about. Now, association leaders, if they advocate, let's come together, put our efforts. If we say we are not going to cover any other function unless we get an apology, yeah, or we are guaranteed maximum security from these people, we are not going to do that. So there is a collective effort, whereby dialogue must be there, yeah, mediation, yeah, and then also another thing is that the public also needs to also be aware of their rights. How far do we go? Yeah, because there is that excitement that comes with me after seeing a camera. Even someone who never wanted to do something, let me show them. So you end up provoking. So in return, the security also says now that they are showing us, or they are trying to do whatever they are doing, let's also do what it's like, let's also revenge. So there is, I still believe that there is hope that there can be press freedom if we collectively agree on how best we can dialogue, on how best we can mediate, and how best we can do our activities, or the activities of the media can be objective enough. I think another thing is to maintain that level of balance, like the balance sides. Yeah, because at some point, I also be honest enough, much as there has also been another issue that the media, some media tries to sideline with the other party. Yeah. So I think there is need for balancing whatever is covered and then the way how it is also disseminated to the general public. But of course, it's a tough work. It cannot be done in one day. It's a series of events or it's a process that can be fully implemented, but it takes time. Yeah. So
thank you so much, Aaron, for that. Yes, thank you so much. And you raise important things of us in terms of us forging a way of how we can work together as the different sects in society, the media, the security, the state, parliament, politicians, citizens, and many other people, especially focusing on dialoguing to create parameters of how we keep on engaging as a people. But something you mentioned, very important, is one, something to do with bias. And we've had this comment often from the side of government. They say most of the media houses or media personalities are biased. But two, they keep mentioning the fact that there is a provocation from the side of the citizens, but also the journalists. And I'll stick to the journalists. And on that note, we are joined by Mr. Suleiman Ssebugwawo. He is a reporter from BBS Television, Buganda Broadcasting Services. Suleiman, you're most welcome to the conversation, and you arrive at a time where I want to engage you exactly about the field. I know you were on ground in Kawempe North and you witnessed some of the things that were happening on ground. When you hear comments like provocation and bias, and let me put it this way, is there something in the behavior of journalists today in the field that would call for a reaction like the one we see from security agencies in terms of attacks, breaking bonds, breaking equipment, and many of the things they have kept doing in the field? Yes, Farah.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Muliisa and the rest of the team. Yeah, like you said, my name is Suleiman Ssebugwawo with BBS. That's where I work from. But then, straight to the point, everything started on the 3rd of last month in Makere, when the president of the NUP, that is National Unity Platform, led a team of supporters from the headquarters, and their destination was, I think, kawempe, that is Kawempe Muslim Primary School, because people had started their campaigns and then there was nothing like violence. Journalists were doing their work and everyone was doing his or her own field perfect. But then security was there as well. And then all they could do was onlooking as well. Because I remember that very day, Nalukola, the MP-elect now, had his procession early morning. That was from Kazo, Angola. He proceeded to Kazo, Lugoba, Bwaise Kazo. Then his destination was Kawempe Kutano. And I think it is coming now to around noon that this procession from the NUP headquarters is now starting their way. And then just as they got out of the gate, security had to block their way. Everyone wanted to ask why, because, I mean, NRM was doing their thing, DP, DA, and everyone was doing their thing. I mean, they could campaign, they could do their processions on a lighter note with guidance from the traffic. Now with NUP, as soon as they landed, as soon as they started, you blocked the way. Of course, they had to ask questions like, why us? The president of National Unity Platform had his team of bodyguards. Of course, wherever he goes, he has this team. They tried to engage the security operatives, as in, why are you blocking us from going this side? They told them, you go back, or it is only the principal that is passing by. So the principal had to engage these people, and then they started tear gassing the crowds. So fortunately, he passed. Now, as he passed, the next thing was rubber bullets fired, live bullets fired, tear gas fired, pepper spraying. And now in this case, there is a journalist working with Nation Media Group called Stephen Chibuika. And this guy was covering, he was live. The rest of the people maybe were scared, but then this person had the zeal to cover whatever was happening. Unfortunately, a police officer at the rank of a DPC ASP, sorry, with the title of a DPC, one day called him, ordered him to delete whatever he had captured. I mean, this guy is live. Your voice is going through. He had to tell him, yes, I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, but then I'm doing my job. I've done nothing wrong. The next we had slaps. Of course, he was now claiming his freedom. Things like that. I mean, he is a journalist. He is well labeled with a press jacket, well dressed. You can identify him. What is wrong with you calling him and telling him, please stay aside, let us do this, or please don't do this? But then you are requesting and at the same time doing whatever you're doing off camera. As if it's not enough, we proceeded to Kawempe Kutan. These men came. The lorry is going on, and they are firing live bullets in the air, trying to disperse the people. I mean, in this situation like this, you know, with journalism, I don't know where this came from, that if a story goes on well, it is not a story. I do not know why we journalists always want to focus on the bad thing of the story, you know? And then it makes the news. I mean, okay, David Ijjo. I don't know where it comes from, but then police came, not even police, these gentlemen came, the one dressed in black. I don't know where they get orders from, because on this day, we see an SFC officer, it is a lady now, pulling them back, telling them not to hit the people, not only journalists, but all the people. They are not listening to her in the clip. She slaps one of them. They try to stop, but then later they come back. I mean, where do they get orders from? Now, on the day of elections, that is the 13th of this month, we were in Kawempe and everything was very okay. Not until things turned worse at the Angola polling station, Kaza Angola. We saw a battalion. I mean, like as if it's a barracks. I remember as BBS we were just reaching this place, almost 40 officers came and surrounded our car, telling us to go back, not to remove anything like a camera, not even to pick our phone calls when people called. One of us, Junju Moses, was badly beaten because now this guy came in a time where I was on live, but then I'm finishing my live, I had to go to the next location. Now Junju came into the other place that I was streaming live from. His only mistake, his only case was him being a journalist, putting on a BBS press jacket.
So maybe, Ssebugwawo, if you may allow me, when these officers come to your car and they are telling you to go back, do they have a reason for that order or request they are making to you, or it's just, please go away, we don't want to see you?
Meanwhile, it's not a request, because one is telling you go away, one is banging that door, one is trying to pull to see if it's open, maybe they pull you out. They do not tell you anything like a reason that because of this and this and this go out. Nah, it's not like that. I mean, we've covered situations where these police officers have been, okay, yes, they said they were detonating bombs around town. You remember that saga?
Yes, yes.
It was them inviting us. I mean, a bomb maybe could be triggered and then people could lose lives. But then we were covering this with them. I remember the case where they had to tell us, Manya, they're arresting terrorists from Kawempe, Kazo, Nabweru, and then Salama Road. And they invited us to cover these stories. I mean, these are terrorists, people with guns and all that, people with bombs, assembling bombs. But then you invite us. Now, this is an election. What is so difficult with us journalists covering this election? Do you have to beat us up like that? And then I'm hearing people submitting things like as if, Manya, we need apologies, they should apologize, so then we start covering them and then all that. Do we need apologies? I mean, is it the start now? These people have been beating up journalists like nothing ever since, I think, 2016. We saw that new vision journalist.
We have Aaron here, and he's been a journalist for quite a number of years, and he told us even as early as 2010, 2011, 2009, there was a lot of brutality against journalists.
Yes, but then do we need apologies? Okay, when they apologize, will they change? What do we need? I think it's time for police now to know what they are supposed to be doing, and that is to protect people and their property. Okay,
All
yes,
right.
maybe police is doing that, but then why do we have to see JAT? Why do we have to see, I mean, each and every military department in an election? Is police failing to do their job? And then what is the, because when we see police and military, their order supersedes the police's order, you know? They're superior and all that. I remember I was in Kawempe, Mbogo, a military drone came, officers came out, they didn't ask any question. I mean, they did not arrest any person. All they did was to beat up people. They could go even up to their shops, find them there, beat them up, and then come out and go. Why do you have to create this fear? Do we need apologies for real? I think it's
thank you,
time
Suleiman, for that. It's such a painful account you give us, and it creates a good image of what happens on ground, especially during electoral processes and activities, and something to regret to be happening in the country at this time. David, I hope you're still able to talk to us. I don't know what you are at now in the field, but if you may talk to us, please. Talk to me. We are faced with these scenarios and situations in the field. You are under attack. What is the best practice from your experience? You've seen how these things are happening and how your friends were beaten up and how you were able to escape some of these ugly scenes. But when a journalist is under attack, what should this journalist do to make sure, one, they are not harmed, their equipment is safe, their information is safe, and indeed they're able to continue doing their work for the next day? Yes, David.
Thank you very much for that question. I'm going to come to that answer in a very few minutes, but let me start by backtracking to what the previous speakers have said. I start by adding my contributions into Aaron. I know Aaron is a senior journalist who has more experience than us, and I just wanted to disagree a bit on the issue of dialogue. You see, while it's very inevitable with these powers that be, security forces, police, it's a conversation that keeps coming up each time things like this happen. Some years back, before I started working, I was following events, and there was a football match between UPDF and journalists. A few days after the journalists were beaten while heading to the UN, I think, Human Rights Offices.
Human Rights Office, yes.
Then there's also a scenario where media managers and all that met with Phillip Ijjo, and then dialogue. But then, even despite the repeated dialogue, it keeps happening. Is this dialogue yielding enough? Is the question. Why do we have dialogue and then things don't yield? It gets to be meaningless dialogue, for Christ's sake. Besides that, I don't think it is right for us to start negotiating for our rights. Really, I don't find it practical that journalists must sit with police to negotiate for what they are supposed to do. No, this is what they are supposed to do. It is upon security and police to know that journalists are supposed to do this. If at all you're disciplining us, discipline us in accordance with the law. Okay? If you have issues that you do not like what a journalist has done, do it within the framework of the law. And then we are not going to sit and start negotiating for our rights, for Christ's sake. I don't agree with that. If we are to sit on a table with these guys, we just need to sit and talk what is supposed to be done. Hey, this is it. Respect our rights when we are in line with duty. And yes, there are scenarios where we cover really harsh politics. I mean, harsh events that could look like they are exposing security or exposing the powers that be if you really don't want us to cover this, make it clear we don't want media, so that it will be on record that whatever you're going to do, you never wanted media there. You never wanted to be exposed. Because it's something I told of Afande Magezi when I appeared in one of the talk shows. I told him, if you don't want us, make it clear than us being there and then you target us. In any case, when we are in line of duty, you're supposed to provide us security, because we are not first of all the people you're battling with, but also you're not supposed to battle with people. I mean, these are Ugandans who have a democratic right to do whatever they want, practice. They have a democratic right to civic space or to civic engagement. So why do you even include failing them? So bottom line, I don't think we should negotiate. I only think we should sit down and have an honest conversation, respect media. Point. As simple as that. To come to your question, first of all, safety starts with a journalist first, and it's conversations we've been having in the newsroom. Safety starts with you first. When you're being deployed, you may have the trainings, but your own safety is with you, number one. Number two, I've always found fellow colleagues from different media houses in kind of those hard civil situations, but then they don't have any safety measures like a protective gear, and I've always complained. I've always blasted them out and I'm like, guys, okay, I know all media houses are different. Not every media house has the financial strength like the other, but they are minimums, whether what the media house has to have: a protective gear, a helmet, bulletproof, branding. These are just bare minimums that, however bad your financial situation may be, just have it as a bare minimum, because the person you're deploying out there is exposed to these risks and you're not ready to start accounting for them. So safety starts with you as a journalist, and then have the right full protective gear. These are just basics. And then when covering, there has been this notion of, when you're covering a riot or a tough political event, things like that, you have to stand by the side of security. I normally rubbish that out. You clearly saw what happened to us. The security you want to trust may turn against you. I've always encouraged colleagues, stand independently. Don't stand among the rioters or political supporters who are trying to target security, but also try as much as to avoid security, because you don't know, anything can happen. So I always encourage stand in a group. That's why that particular time we were beaten in Kawempe, our voices were able to be amplified because we were beaten as a group. We normally, regardless of media house, NBS, NTV, at that moment, the journalists, inevitable that we stand as a group and we are identified by both sides. If it is supporters, they will know these are media guys. If it is police, they will see us, they will know these are media guys. So it's upon them to do what they want, but at least they've identified us. So
thank you.
Philip, I am sorry. I am going to request to leave the call. We are now heading to the Office of the Human Rights, and I may need to focus my attention that side. My apologies.
It is very understandable, and we appreciate the time you've given us, but also making sure you give us those accounts and the cautions you give us. It adds a lot of value to the conversation. Thank you so much, David Ijjo, for joining us. He's a journalist with the Nation Media Group, and we wish you the best of luck in that particular activity you're undertaking today in the field. Please. Aron, I want to come back to you, and I know a couple of things have been mentioned here. Look, we spoke about dialogue and trying to create parameters, but as we near the end of the conversation, we have about 9 minutes to close the conversation. To you, what? Yes, Aron, if you can hear me, I want to pick from you. When you look at how things are unfolding going forward, what does the future of journalism look like in this country? Especially that now in the next very few months, we're heading into the general elections and going forward into post-election reporting and all the other things that keep happening out there. Yes, Aron.
All right. Thank you so much. To me, I believe not all hope is lost. Yeah. we still have, I believe there is still chance for the media and the security forces to cooperate and do the very best. And then secondly, as journalists, let's avoid being biased. Let's try to be accurate, because we are getting into a situation, a period that is going to be too fragile. If you're balanced, if you're covering, let's try to do everything it takes to make sure that we balance whatever information we are going to. And then on top of that, we also need to see the principle of objectivity coming in. Of course, it's so unfortunate that Ijjo has left the call, but still I believe that dialogue works. By all means, whenever there are two forces, dialogue will always still work. If let's say I had a disagreement with you, Philip, maybe your boss can decide, no, these two guys have been contributing towards maybe the growth of civic space, but I've lost all of them. Yeah? Or one is not going because he needs the other. So let's get how best we can negotiate and bring them back together. To me, of course, the beating, it's so unfortunate. It was so unfortunate. Yeah? So still, I believe in dialogue. Let's be objective. And then another thing, I believe now media owners also need in one way or the other also. I think it's not going like when they made the tweet about going to Chankwanz, of course it was like kind of a joke, but then they also need to be, media owners need to also like retool the journalists with the new skills. Yeah, if it means, can I have a camera whereby if I'm covering somewhere, I can be like 200 meters away, but I'm in a position to get what's happening. Yeah, because also it's not good to say, I already see, you already know that somehow, somewhere, these people, they usually collide with you. So how best can I also be in position to get the very best? Yeah, I was giving that scenario of that journalist from Malaysia, how he would tell us, these are the angles, get the angles. This is where you can, to get the real story, get the story. And then on top of that, also getting to know the nature of our country. I also believe journalists also need, I think we focus on the negatives more. We focus on the negatives more because remember, this is the period. Just one story like this is enough to tarnish the entire name of the country. Somehow, somewhere, you wake up to a headline. I'm not saying that I blame the headlines, yeah, but there should also be that for you all the time you're publishing something that is against, is there, okay, we agree there has been this harassment there, but isn't there something good that has been done, yeah, that the public also needs to know about? So somehow, somewhere, the security also, in one way or the other, turns against the media because of maybe what has been transpiring. Yeah, that's somehow, somewhere, that's the reason. So I still believe not all hope is lost. We can still do our work. If the association leaders, like the human rights for network journalists, like Sebel, I know he has been at the center of it all. CSOs need to be together and advocate for a good and cordial working relationship between the media and the security, and then also bringing in the state operatives. I believe they can still do they can still do good work. To me, I believe not all hope is lost, but of course we have to also prepare for the worst. Where there is something good, the worst can also happen. I'll be honest enough. We have to equip ourselves. We have to equip ourselves. Yeah. If I'm going, I'll be honest enough now. I need to make sure that if maybe it's during a riot, I also need, if it means getting these shin guards, put them on. Yeah. You're not saying that you're anticipating danger, but just in case it happens. Yeah. Because you can, we also, I remember scenarios where I'd go to cover events. All of a sudden, just one person like this disorganizes the entire event and security gets provoked. So it's the same thing that should be done. Minus that,
Sure.
of course, considering the nature of our country, these things are going to continue happening. But to me, I still believe we can still do better once we negotiate. Me, I believe in dialogue. By all means, works and it makes things to work out. We can do better, and we can be in position to inform our citizens about what's happening, because people need to be aware. If we don't do that, truth be told now, I suspect if there is no change, what we saw in Kawempe, I think it might be an icing on the cake. But if now internet is shut down, we are lucky that internet was on. What if there is no internet? So how will you get to know what will happen? So such kind of stuff.
Thank you.
And of course, the government remains with the utmost authority of each and everything that happens within the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aron Amanya, for that account and for continually calling for dialogue. In the end, we need to talk to each other as a people to make sure we find consensus and have things moving with ideas that both of us agree on. Thank you so much for your views and for the time you've made for the conversation. In absentia, David Ijjo from NTV, thank you so much for your views and for making time to the conversation. And indeed, Suleiman Ssebugwawo from BBS Television, thank you so much for your views and for making time to the conversation. And special thanks to you, our viewer. Thank you so much for keeping it Community Voices Uganda, and indeed all other programs on Civic Space TV. Special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance for working with us this journey, and special thanks to the technical team for joining us. I am Phillip Muliisa, and I shall see you next time.